What's up, guys? I'm Joachim. This is On the Horn coming at you from the tunnel under Capital One Arena with media walking past me at the A-10 Men's Basketball Championship after VCU beat St. Bonaventure 76-59 today in the quarterfinals to advance to the semifinals tomorrow. Rams were in control from start to finish, led for 38-21 by as much as 17, so that final margin was their largest lead of the game, and I think that's huge on the day that the selection committee for the NCAA tournament is going to tentatively set much of their at-large field for VCU to not only win, but to do so in commanding fashion. I think is huge for the eye test. There's not many people you're going to find around the country that watch that game today that'll say that didn't look like an NCAA tournament team. Talked to Bonaventure coach Mark Schmidt after the game, who's always a class act, one of my favorite coaches in the A-10 to interview, and he said VCU is absolutely an NCAA tournament team and has everything that you need not only to get there but to win games in March Madness and perhaps make a run. So VCU led by Jack Clark tonight, 17 points, 6 of 11 from the floor, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, continues to have a huge impact down the stretch here for the Rams, shot 3 of 8 from beyond the arc. And Brandon Jennings, how about Brandon Jennings? I think he deserves a lot of the plaudits for this performance today. Set a career high with 12 points and 3 blocks. He jumped out the gym for one of those blocks there down the stretch in the second half. I think Luc Bamboye was falling to the ground, and Brandon had to jump over him and another guy that Luke was tangled with in order to get up for that block. That was a wow moment. And he had a few of them today in an outstanding performance. Hit 3 threes. Brandon 3 of 3 from beyond the arc, and he affected this games to and helped this team in so many ways early on in the season with his defense, with his rebounding, with his tenacity. But the outside shooting took a while for him to gain confidence, right? And he's down the stretch here started to hit some outside shots. And today to go 3 of 3 from 3-point range was enormous in this game. Bonaventure cut it to 5 and 6 a couple of times. There, I think it was 43-38 about midway through that second half where it felt like they had a chance to get back into the game. And I think that was when the third of Brandon's threes came. And then in the first half, when Bonaventure cut it to like 3 or 4 there, Brandon hit back-to-back threes, catch and shoot from the top of the key to help VCU lengthen out the lead again. And just every time that Bonaventure looked like they were going to claw back into the game, VCU came up with a run to keep them at arm's length. Other notable performances today, Max Shulga. We got to talk about Max because the A-10 Player of the Year had 1 field goal today, past the 1,000-point mark in his time at VCU. So maybe he knew exactly what the number was that he needed to get to. But 11 assists with just the 1 field goal. Your A-10 Player of the Year was a distributor today, setting the table for everyone else. Jack Clark and Brandon Jennings talked about how important that was in the post-game press conference. Obviously, Max is going to draw a ton of attention from the opposing defense, and he was 1 of 9 from the floor, 0 of 7 from 3, although he had a few go in and out. They were good looks, and it looked like they went halfway down, so he was close to having a more productive game offensively, but man, 11 assists for him. That's enormous for VCU when your conference player of the year can only score the 1 field goal and still be able to impact the game as a table setter. Brandon and Jack both talked about how helpful that is for everyone else with the defensive attention that Max is going to draw for him to be so unselfish and be able to set the table for his teammates. Philip Russell, in his return to action, he started this game after missing the Dayton game with the sprained ankle that he suffered at Duquesne. And wonderful sign for VCU. I didn't see any kind of a limp for Phil. It looked like, maybe not quite at 100%. I mean, he only played 20 minutes and 6 seconds, but he looked like his normal, tenacious, disruptive self. And he only ended up with 6 points. 1 rebound, 2 assists, but he was a game-high 23 over on the plus-minus. I think that speaks to how Philip Russell impacts the game, the flow that VCU wants to play with offensively, his perimeter defense. He had a huge impact today. Joe Bonaventure, 6 of 16 from the floor, 13 points. The outside shot is not really falling for him right now. Got 1 to go down during the second half from the right wing on a catch-and-shoot off a Shulga assist. So I think big for Joe to see 1 go in from outside because he's obviously not in the zone right now, but he's been attacking the cup really effectively lately. Ended up 6 of 16 from the field to get those 13 points. And Zeb Jackson, 5 of 11 from the field, 4 of 4 at the free throw line, 14 points. And his free throw shooting, I think he's at like 90% for the season, which is one of the best single season clips in VCU history. And his free throw shooting, not that this was a close game down the stretch, but he still made some free throws late there when Bonaventure started fouling. And his clip at the line has become a weapon for VCU late in games because you can tell that they're doing everything that they can to get the ball in his hands because they want other teams to have to foul him and send him to the line because he's making everything there. Michael Bell, too. How about, I'm not sure how, I mean, it was, you could see that Michael Bell was affecting this game in a positive way, but he had 10 rebounds in just 12 minutes and 12 seconds of action, and 2 steals. So a huge tip of the cap for him crashing the glass as effectively as he did in this game. VCU won the rebounding battle 40-36, 16 offensive rebounds, led to 16 second chance points. They attacked the glass well, and it was really their depth, I thought, was the biggest thing. Bonaventure missing some pieces. They're always going to play a short rotation to begin with, but they only had 8 healthy guys, Mark Schmidt said today, and they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Melvin Council played the full 40 minutes. I love that dude's game. He ended up with 19 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He certainly deserved the all-conference honors that he got. He hit the game winner when VCU lost at Bonaventure back on December 31st to open conference play. I love that guy's game. Tip of the cap to him and Chance Moore for fighting their tails off today when Bonaventure was shorthanded and they had to play really heavy minutes. VCU 30-5 edge and bench points, right? So Jennings coming off the bench affecting the game, Bell in the way that he did, Jackson too, with Phil slotting back into that starting lineup. VCU's depth, especially in a tournament setting. When Bonaventure played yesterday, they looked worn out down the stretch in that second half. And that's going to pay major dividends for VCU tomorrow in the semifinals and potentially on Sunday in the final. So again, VCU 76, St. Bonaventure 59. A vital win for VCU's at-large NCAA tournament hopes again. I think that they may have sealed it today. Even if they were to lose tomorrow, it's going to be tough to keep them out of the at-large conversation. With how high their net is, with how good they look today. But at this point, with how well this team is playing, I don't think anyone's thinking about that. They're thinking about winning this tournament and getting a 9 or a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. If VCU can do as they're expected to do as the favorites entering this tournament and hoist the trophy on Sunday, they'll play either Loyola Chicago or St. Louis tomorrow in the semifinals. Both those teams are playing right now. I was having some conversations with the VCU people about who you'd rather play. VCU won by 19 at Gentile, right? So you've got a dominant win over Loyola, and they did lose to St. Louis. But I think with St. Louis's lack of depth, they rely so heavily on Avila, Swope, and Jimerson. They're going to be worn down by tomorrow if they can get past Loyola in this game now. So I think St. Louis is the preferable opponent, but VCU will certainly be favored either way with who they play tomorrow. And you know what helped that too? Was the traveling support. A huge shout out to all the VCU fans. It's obviously not a long trip, hour 45 minutes or so to get up from Richmond to DC. I remember the first couple games in Brooklyn last year that were quite sparsely attended. Now the VCU fans got there by the weekend after the off day for the semifinals and the final last year in Brooklyn. Obviously a much longer trip, but today, my goodness, that didn't feel far off from the Siegel Center. It's about 90-10, I'd say, ratio-wise, and VCU fans to Bonaventure fans. And I love the Bonaventure fans, by the way. They're a passionate fan base. They love their kids. They love their program in a small town. And so a tip of the cap to them. And again, to Coach Schmidt, who I always love interviewing. But VCU traveled really well today. It was largely black and gold fans in those stands, and it didn't feel far off from the Siegel Center. As the Rams controlled it from start to finish, again, led for 38-21. Only 2 lead changes and 1 tie in this game, and those happened early on. And VCU ends up winning by 17 in commanding fashion, and looks like they're in a really good at-large spot headed into the A-10 semifinals tomorrow. So VCU 76, St. Bonaventure 59. Rams to the A-10 semifinals tomorrow at 1 against either Loyola or St. Louis, who are playing right now. I'm Zach Joachim. This is On the Horn. I'll have all the interviews and story up shortly. And thank you guys so much for following the coverage. We'll see you tomorrow.